Well, hello there, everybody. It's Ryan Cullen, director here at the Louisiana Academy of Performing Arts. And I'm here today with Miss Katarina Boudreau, instructor of voice and piano and former teacher of the year. And we're here to talk to you today about all things practice. Okay, practicing is one of a teacher's favorite thing to say, hey, did you practice this week, right? And so we wanted to talk to you today about a couple of things. What to expect if you're a brand new student to the Academy, or if you've been taking lessons for a very long time. I wanted to let you know what's natural, what's normal with regard to amount of practicing, the desire to practice. Also what motivates students to practice. And that could be for either the student or the teacher. You know, if you're a teacher watching this, how do I get my students to practice? And then Ms. Katarina is going to talk to us about how to practice, the right way to get things done so that you're productive in every session that you do. Okay, so we're going to start off by asking Ms. Katarina a question. And that would be, as a kid, did you love to practice? Did you always practice? And how did that go for you?
I can't lie. I was a practicer.
Okay,
I was a really good practicer. However, I found that I didn't practice things that weren't as interesting to me. So like guitar, I was in, and I wasn't as glued to it as piano, so I didn't practice it as much. And so I did have to put myself on a regimen of how to achieve goals when I wasn't really that into it.
Okay, well that's awesome. I do want to address, you know, the expectations of new parents, you know, especially. Not everyone is going to be a natural practicer, right? They're going to have a wax and a wane, and you know, especially when you do something new, a new activity, right? Maybe you just got a new piano or a new keyboard. You like to polish the piano a little bit and make it nice and shiny. You just signed up for lessons. You got some new books. Everything's new. It's going great, right? So we're going to spend some time, you know, learning those few little things. And then, you know, we'll do that for a while, going great, but then school starts, or maybe we get too much homework. Basketball season starts, you know. So then we kind of maybe don't practice quite as much as we were, you know. That can happen. But then the recital comes up. LAAPA Fest is coming up, so then we have a new piece maybe that we're working towards, and we're getting more excited. And then we have the big recital, big award ceremony, right? So we're back up on that curve. And the point is, you know, what we find with most parents and students is the whole musical interest, you know, and practice along with that is like in a sine curve, you know, so you'll get excited, then we might not be as excited, then we'll get excited again. And the key to that, our most successful parents and students have found that, you know, you want to stick it out, because if you stop and then you start, and then you're starting all over from the beginning when you do that. And yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to mention.
So I always think about practicing as like a friendship. Mm-hmm. So you have a friend, and it's new and it's bright, and you want to do everything with them. And then it gets a little old, and then maybe you meet new friends, and maybe you don't spend as much time with that old original friend. To maintain a relationship with anything, a friend or an instrument, because that's really what you're doing, is you're building a lifelong friendship, a relationship with either a piano or a guitar or a flute, which is your outside instrument, or if you're a singer, then it's with that instrument within you. You're building a relationship. And like any relationship, it has its ups and downs. Mm-hmm. But in order to keep it moving forward, you have to maintain constant contact with it, which is why practice is important. Stopping and starting is no good, just like you can't be friends one week and then a month later say, you know, I need to just take a break from you, you know, in my life. And I just got too many other friends right now. And usually those people will go their merry way. Same thing with an instrument. You lose traction. You have to start back at square one, and then that becomes really very, to me, you get less determined. You get oh, I used to be able to do this. I went back to cello after years, and I was like, dude, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, is to relearn an instrument, because you were expecting to come back at this level, and you come back here. So I think that with any friendship or any relationship, what I like to tell the students that I teach is to make it part of your life, to make it one part or one segment of your life. When I grew up, my mom made me practice when she made dinner, ostensibly because she wanted to hear, because it was right next door. But I think what it was establishing a pattern and establishing a time.
A routine is huge.
Right.
Huge.
So I tell some of my younger students who are like, I don't ever have time to play. So my comment to them is, a lot of these kids will wake up in the morning and then they wait for their school bus for an hour and they just watch TV. Why not sit down and practice? Have your breakfast, get ready for school. You're waiting for the school bus. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, sit down, play through your assignment. Or I have kids who are like, no, I'm out the door, I sleep late. Okay, great. Come home from school, eat your snack, practice, then do your homework. And make it so that the practice isn't, I have to do that too, I already did homework.
Right.
You know?
So that kind of brings us to the motivation point. How can we get students to be motivated to want to practice? And what should parents know about that? What should teachers know about that?
Do you know, I didn't practice when I had my first piano teacher, because he had a, he ran the lesson to where he had a large, like a fishing pole with a red pencil on the end of it, and he'd sit back and he'd just circle every time I'd make a mistake. And it really aggravated me, because to me it was more about everything I did wrong instead of the things I did right. My second piano teacher, who I stayed with for forever, the reason I liked her is because she was always motivating me to look at the music, but then to look beyond that, to make it better than what was just on the page. To me, it was a challenge, because then it wasn't just me following the rules, it was me trying to make something different out of something already there. So that always caught my fancy, because I was like, I'll give you one of my favorite pieces, the Venetian, the gondola song. I remember her saying, I want, when you play it, for me to feel like I'm on a boat. So I want you to come up with a couple of words that you would write into the how to play the song instead of what's written there. So she made me actually come up with words to replace the ritardando or holding back or pianissimo or forte, to use my own words and my own images. And so those are the things that made me want to practice with her. And
so you're more invested in the piece that way, you're more motivated, and that's huge. That's
so I didn't mind. Younger kids, what I say is, the reason that we like to practice and come in prepared is because guess what's coming next? Because I feel like for the older kids, they know what's coming next. They are part of their lesson. The other thing I like to also do is make sure that the kids are actually involved in the lesson and in the direction of the lesson. So if they know that they have an assignment book, a lesson book, where they need to read their notes and they hate reading notes, that if they get that piece, then the next week I'll write out something fun for them. Or we can figure out chords on a song that's on the radio or together. There's always that prize. If you get this done, then this happens. I know that may not be the best way to bribe a kid to read notes, but it makes it worthwhile for them to put the time in.
Absolutely. You have to have motivation, and we call that the nugget.
Nugget.
Right. What's in it for them, right?
It's not chicken.
Yeah, that's right. And so now that we know that, and we know how to, what to expect, what the motivation is, we need to know how to practice, okay? When we're practicing, that doesn't mean just play the song, right, the whole way through, and then you're done, right? As we know, there's going to be a little more to it to,
Correct.
Address the mistakes. So.
All right, so let's talk about practicing for voice, and then we'll talk about practicing for piano. When we practice for a voice, a lot of times in your lesson when you come in, we always have warm-ups. A-I-O, things like this, right? A lot of my voice students don't take piano, so they're like, well, how can I do that? I like to always tell them that they can do two major things to help them. The first one is to practice your vocal breathing technique, meaning take a breath, feel the lungs fill up with air, your rib cage is wide, and do a sizzle. For as long as you can. You can do that in the car. You can do that, in your room when you're texting people or whatever you're doing. That's a very easy practice mechanism. The second one is to do the bubble lips. So take a good breath and buzz or bubble your lips for as long as you can to build up the amount of time that you're able to maintain your breath control. The second thing I ask for, so that you can do all the time, the second thing that I ask for my voice students to do is when they have a piece of voice music, let's say it is Stand By Me. Okay, so that's an easy song. First thing that I want them to do is look at the lyrics and understand what the lyrics are about. What is Stand By Me about? Second thing is research. Where did the song come from? Why was it written? Was it important? Was it featured in any major films? And what did it mean at that point? Did it win awards? Know something about the music you're assigned because it's part of the history and it's part of the way you're going to present it, right? So especially for musical theater, if you don't know what your character is about, if you don't know who wrote the music, if you don't know the back history of it, how are you going to sing it effectively? So then you can sing along. There's if you go on YouTube, there's lots and lots and lots of karaoke style versions to this, that, and the next thing, or your teacher can record for you a track. But one thing I always like for my voice students to do is to sing on the vowels. So that you would do, so it's when the night has come, say, A-I, A-O, A-I, A-O, and start singing only on the vowel so that you really have an idea of where your vocal line is. Then add in the consonants. When the night, and then you kind of have that secondary level. Third thing I'd like them to do is to sing it a cappella. Check your pitch. Are you on pitch? Are you not on pitch? Are you wavering? When the night. Are you flat? Are you sharp? Record yourself, watch yourself. For those who want to do performance, which I believe most voice students take because they are interested in programs at their school, choir, whatever, record yourself singing and watch your face. See what your features look like. So that's how I like for my students to practice voice. So that's 4 different things that you can do in order to take one piece of music and really practice it. That's in between 3 and 5 days in a week, right? So one day, look at the history. One day, sing the karaoke. One day, you can look at the way that you can do it on the vowels. And the 4th day, look at your face while you're singing it and see what that looks like. Then you're covered for that song. For piano, what I'd like to do is, for the beginning piano book, oh yay, this is fantastic.
Frogs on Logs.
So Frogs on Logs, I'm excited. Can you sit, please, Ryan?
Sure.
So Ryan is the student of the moment. Okay, so the first thing that I
didn't get as much practice as I wanted to this week. Just letting you know.
Well, that's okay. We'll work through it together in our class.
Okay.
But after you see this, we'll practice plenty, right?
That's right.
There's an informational thing that okay, sorry. I got off track. So, Frogs on Logs. First thing I'm going to do, especially if it's a younger student, is I'm going to ask them, tell me about frogs.
Well, they jump.
They jump?
They ribbit, and you have to be careful when you hold them.
Do you like frogs? Do you not like frogs?
I'm a frog fan. We have a lot of frogs in the country. You know.
Are they in a river?
Do
you have water, or are they just?
Yeah, we have a pond. And
you have a pond?
They're very loud at night. You know,
okay.
They make a lot of noise.
Well, what do you notice about all these notes?
Well,
is there a pattern? Do you feel like it looks like a frog?
Maybe they're just moving a little bit, and then they start to jump a little more down here. You know.
Awesome. Now, I'd like to play the accompaniment. Can I play the duet for you?
Sure. Yep.
So, it's going to sound like this. Does that sound like a frog?
It does to me.
What part sounds like a frog?
The.
But you don't know that.
Oh, well,
you're a beginning piano student.
That's right. But, you know.
So you would be like.
And this is kind of froggy, too.
Those kind of things. So now, can you play what a frog would look like? If you've never played the piano before in your life?
If I've never played before,
what do you think a frog would sound like on the piano?
I would say something like that, you know.
He's never played before in his life. Did you know?
Yeah, something like that, right?
So I'm going to be the student for 1 second.
Okay. Did you practice this week?
So ask me what a frog sounds like.
Okay. Well, Katarina, what do you think a frog would sound like? Okay. Well, we can work with that. Because, yeah, well, that could be like a lot of frogs all at once.
Lots of frogs jumping around on logs, right?
Yeah, a lot of them.
So why is that important? Because now suddenly the music becomes visual, it becomes tactile, and it's something they're interested to know. Well, what does this song sound like? What does these frogs sound like? Okay. So then my student, I'm going to say, okay, so how many notes are we going to play on the first line? Can you count them?
Let's see. We got 8. No, 10. I'm not the best at math, you know. But there are 10. Yes.
Why is it important that I ask them to count their notes? Well, simply so that they actually look at the page. Okay? That's the goal.
Starting point.
Is to look at the page. It's not scary. I'm not looking out in here and I'm not going to make it up. I look at the page. There's 10 notes.
There are.
Can you tell me what kind of notes there are?
They are black and white.
They are. What do the black ones that are filled in mean? How many
well,
counts?
those are 1 count, I believe.
So look at that. We have all these 1 counts. And then what kind of a frog is on this one?
A very lazy one and
Very
tired
fat.
one.
Very
fat.
lazy.
Yes.
4 count frog, okay?
Right.
And then all of these are kind of jumpy. 1 counts, and then what about here?
Yeah, another tired one.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is how you're going to practice at home. Look at your music. Count the notes. Remember which ones are quarter notes versus whole notes. 1 count versus 4 counts. Now, all I want you to do is the first measure.
Okay. All right. And this is middle C here, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, that's 2 measures.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking in complete phrases.
Okay.
You see,
Now I want you to take the first 2 measures, and I want you to say the note names aloud while you play.
Okay. C, C, D, D, C.
Now, I'd like for you to sing along with the notes as you play them.
C, C, D, D, C.
Awesome. Now, can you go ahead and play that without the music in front of you?
Let me try. I believe it started on C.
Indeed.
All right.
Awesome. Now,
Thank you.
let's add the next 2 measures.
Okay.
Let's do the whole process again. How many notes are we going to be playing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more notes.
5, yep.
And a lot of times if the young person or the older person really wants to read the notes first, I'll give them a minute to see where the notes are. C's, D's, and E's. Okay?
Okay.
And then in their practice, what are you going to do first? Just play through it. Sight
Play
read.
it.
Sight read it through.
Okay.
Awesome. Now, can you play that through and say the letter names?
D, D, E, E, D.
Now, can you play that through and sing the letter names or hum them? Great. Let's add this on to the 2 measures that we've already done. Ribbit. Ribbit. Now, can you play that without the music?
I'll give it a shot.
Let's try it. Perfect. Now, after you do that for 1 or 2 of your practice sessions, then we can look a little bit at what? Cheerfully, mezzo forte. Then what I would ask the student to do is to make it into a happy frog, a fat frog, a downtrodden frog, a frog that is running across the water.
Why don't you show us that? Show us the Show us the
3 different
different frogs.
All right,
Yes.
so for the first one, I'm just going to play my normal Anne of Green Gables kind of frog. Now I'm going to play a frog that is afraid because there is a snake trying to eat him. Now I'm going to play it like I have just received news that I got tickets to go to my favorite singer's concert. Yep. So try to make it so that each time one's loud, one's soft, blah, 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 blah. Also, you can also use different octaves to shape it, to make the music a little different.
And so I want to interject here.
Interject.
What you're doing is genius, because normally we're supposed to play things over and over, right? We want to keep doing the same pattern over to, really get it in our memory. But what she's doing here is she's changing each one a little bit, kind of making the student invested in it, right? And getting them on the same page. We're not just saying, okay, do it again. Okay, do it again. No, this is much more entertaining and much more productive for the student. So that's huge.
And fun.
Right.
And then finally, when you always want to play, and you always mention this, you always want to play the accompaniment with your students. Because look how fun that is. What? I mean, how fun is that? There's like frogs now on the page.
Right.
And especially on this bottom part when you get to go. I mean, that's so much fun. So making sure that they hear what it sounds like as a duet is really cool.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing that today with us, Miss Katarina. And thanks to all of you for joining us today for this little interview and tutorial on practicing. So
practice on!
Go to the piano right now or pick up the microphone and get practicing. We'll see you next time. Take care.